What's good, everybody? I'm Keandre, this is HoopIntellect, and welcome back to the channel. Now, a lot happened on draft night, and we've got to recap it all, so we'll get to all the surprises, the teams that put together the best drafts, some steals, and a few things I questioned or a random pick or two that we have to talk about from the night. But starting with the entire lottery, of course, the Spurs did what they were supposed to do and drafted Victor Wembanyama with the first pick. You guys all know what he brings to the table and how special he is, and it was great to see what could be a seminal moment in NBA history, drafting someone who, at the very least, has the potential to be one of those guys who carries the game forward in the next 10 to 15 years. But beyond that, there's really not much to say. I mean, we've talked about Wemby nonstop for the last several months. I'm just excited to watch him play in the NBA uniform here soon in the Summer League. And like we all thought, at number 2, that's where the draft really started. There were a ton of rumors about who Charlotte was going to pick, how Scoot was outperforming Brandon Miller in the workouts, and the whole Jordan, Paul George GOAT situation that everyone had fun with. But Brandon Miller ended up being the guy for the Hornets. Y'all know I would have gone in a different direction and think this decision could come back to bite them, but Miller is still a high-level talent and fits there immediately as a 6'9" wing who can shoot it and make plays as a secondary ball handler. And playing off a talent like LaMelo Ball, he could have quite a few easy opportunities and make a real impact here. And then at number 3, the Blazers had no other choice than to go with Scoot Henderson. And getting Scoot with the 3rd pick after having the 5th best odds and being fairly competitive when Dame was healthy last year is a home run in my opinion. Scoot has a chance to be a franchise leading guy, and for that reason, it's probably time to pivot off Dame in the next year, given that combo with Scoot probably doesn't change your chances of contending in the immediate future, and Dame is almost 15 years older than him. But yeah, it's great value getting a prospect the caliber of Scoot with the 3rd pick in the draft, and whatever Portland decides to do, they are in great position to put together a winner and make good on some of the team building mistakes they had when building around Dame. Amin Thompson went to Houston at number 4, which was his clear best fit and my best player available on the board. Now, I'm probably forgetting a duo somewhere in NBA history, but I'm thinking the Jalen Green and Amin Thompson backcourt is immediately the most athletic we've ever seen. But more importantly than that, the dynamic that Amin brings as a playmaker and in his defensive versatility at 6'7" is something that'll naturally make this Rockets team look different from the jump. And you know, I was thinking of ways that you could get creative with this team on offense, and the possibility of Şengün dribble handoffs, pistol, or delay actions with both Amin and Jalen Green is going to be a lot more difficult to stop than people probably think, and that's just one small example. Of course, Amin will have some growing pains given his skill set, and every single player does besides like LeBron, but I love this pick. He's got the work ethic and approach to be great, and I'll be tuning into a lot of Rockets games next year to see how everything looks and in his progression. And right at number 5, Amin's twin Asar goes to the Detroit Pistons. They get some more athleticism and a much needed presence on the wing defensively, and a guy who can make plays in a variety of ways and fits well into their long-term plans. If you've been following for a minute, you guys know how much I like the Cade and Ivy backcourt. I was a big fan of Jalen Duren as a prospect as well, and they have the pieces to be competitive very soon if they can stay healthy. They've also got Monty Williams running the show. The Pistons are in a very good position and probably the best position they've been in since the championship core ended in the 2000s. Also, I can confidently say that we're not seeing twins get drafted back-to-back in the top 5 anytime soon. It's one thing to have a sibling in the NBA, it's another thing to be the Morris twins and go back-to-back at the lottery, or the Martin twins and even play together, but the odds of this happening have to be unfathomably low, and it's just really dope to see them achieve what they set out to do a couple years ago. Anthony Black went to the Magic at number 6, and talent-wise he belongs in this range as a 6'7" high-level defender and playmaker in multiple ways on offense. I'm interested to see how he's used because I think some of the same questions and difficulties that their other guards have had may be there with him. I'm interested to see how he's used because I think some of the same questions and difficulties that their other guards have had may be there with him if he's a lead guy with a lack of creativity on a perimeter and a questionable shot. At the same time, they were always likely going to take someone who didn't shoot the ball great right now unless it was Taylor Hendricks. So I think you're good with getting a talent at the level of AB and hope that some internal development and the right supporting pieces makes everyone in this oversized lineup able to succeed and have as big an impact as possible, because if he hits and Paolo and Franz keep ascending, it could be a pretty difficult team to deal with. The Wizards traded up one spot with the Pacers to take Bilal Coulibaly at number 7, and while there were some guys I had ranked higher on my board, the Wizards are the one team I felt like had the room and the timeline that would fit a player like Bilal's upside, so for the both of them I really like it. I think he'll be able to contribute and get reps at the NBA level right away, which is important for a prospect like this, but I pump the brakes on expecting him to immediately come in and deliver a top 7 performance in this class. It's going to take some time, but I like the pick post Beal and Porzingis with this new regime, and we'll see what Bilal can put together in DC as a long athlete with high level defensive abilities and upside on offense. Darius Walker went to the best spot possible for him in Indiana at number 8. We talked about it in the mock, but I love what he brings to the table there as a modern 4-man who is versatile defensively and can make plays on offense and complements the likes of Tyrese Halliburton and Miles Turner on both ends in a big way. The Pacers also picked up a couple future second-round picks in the process to get their guy, and as competitive as they were with the healthy Tyrese last year, it's hard not to get excited if you're a fan of this team. The Utah Jazz took Taylor Hendricks at number 9. I wasn't sure what they do here. I felt like Coulibaly might be there and they take that swing, and there's also another prospect that we'll talk about in a second I thought for sure they'd take if he popped up at 9. But Taylor Hendricks is one of those players that fits everywhere as your 3-and-D big wing or forward, someone who was comfortably in this range for me, and that combination of him in the front court with Markkanen and Kessler should be pretty difficult to score on in the future. And while he may not bring the most value as a creator right now, he's got a clear NBA role to play at a high level, and I like the direction they're heading in just a year after the Gobert and Mitchell trades. At 10, the Mavericks traded this pick and Davis Bertans to OKC for number 12, which was a pretty good deal for everyone. And Cason Wallace is who the Thunder went with. Cason was a top 10 talent for me, and he matches the theme of what they're building here in terms of a tough defender who can make plays and knock down shots playing on and off the ball. And even being just 6'4", he's able to guard up and play on the wing. And though on the surface I can see why some people are skeptical, I think he makes an immediate impact here and helps make this team even more competitive. Great pick here by the Thunder, who have been shooting a pretty high percentage at this thing in the last couple years. Now the Magic made a bit of a surprise pick in taking Jet Howard at 11, but he does fit what they're trying to build and addresses a clear need with a wing shooter, especially after picking Anthony Black. Now earlier in the year, I think a lot of us would have had Jet as a top 2 to 5 pick on a Magic-centric board. Now he has some injuries, and the trends in his defense and some of the athleticism put his stock in a different place. I do think there were some better options here, but still pretty good team building to me, and he fits a lot of the actions they currently run. At 12, the Mavs got their guy in Derek Lively to hopefully transform their defense and get a lot of open opportunities off the attention a guy like Luka or potentially Kyrie attract. He's one of the premier rim protecting talents of the last several years, both from a technical and analytical standpoint, and it's a great pick and pivot from some of the moves that they've made in recent years. And getting off that Bertans contract and only having to move back 2 spots in the process to get the guy you wanted at 10, that's a pretty good start to the night. The Toronto Raptors selected Grady Dick at 13. I was somewhat surprised that he was the pick for them. I honestly didn't think that he would be the type of player that they would target, but a sharp shooting wing with a well-rounded game that makes quick decisions and the little plays could immediately help them out in a lot of ways. And in terms of winners of the draft, I don't think anyone had a better night than Grady. Everything from the suit to the interviews to the follow from Drake to getting to a spot that he wanted, the vibes were definitely there for him, and I'm excited to see what Toronto does as a team going forward.
You ain't snitch on me.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay.
Get Drake a jersey. I need Drake to wear my jersey. That's a priority.
So if Drake wears your jersey, you say, okay, this was success.
Yeah, of course.
And then at the end of the lottery, the Pelicans took sharpshooter Jordan Hawkins. There's a few players I like more, but he's elite at what he's elite at. It makes sense here and could serve a valuable role for what the Pels do. Probably one of the top 3 to 4 favorite scouting report videos that I've made. And I think New Orleans will enjoy watching him knock down shots for years and years to come. Now with all of those lottery picks, we had the event of Cam Whitmore sliding all the way to the 20th pick, and that leads us into the biggest winners and drafts of the night. And given how I felt about him as a top 5 prospect, I think he would have been a good pick for some of these teams as long as whatever medical issue or red flag he supposedly had wasn't crazy. But at the same time, I understand teams just staying pat on their targets and guys they focused on, especially with far different skill sets than Cam's, and you also have that agent relationship to juggle, so from that angle it makes sense. But the overall point is Houston got 2 at worst top 10 picks, both of which they were reportedly considering at number 4 without having to move up anywhere, and that is ridiculous. Now I'm a little curious of how they make all of this work with this many young guys in need of developmental reps. There's a lot of questions I think they'll have to answer, but this is a grand slam, and for me that makes them one of the undisputed winners of the night. The Jazz coming away from the draft with 3 guys I rated inside of my top 20 also make them one of the biggest winners of the night. We talked about Hendricks already. I've been a big believer in Keontae George's skill set despite some of the efficiency questions, and Bryce Sensabaugh is as much a per-minute bucket as we're ever going to see in college basketball, and that gives them a nice balance of skill sets with their current core. It's an overall really nice draft for Utah, getting a significant talent boost, and hopefully we get to see all of them in Summer League. I think Keontae will play more of a point guard role in that setting just to see what he can do. You throw Ochai Agbaji into that group too. I'll be following that team very closely, to say the least. The value of getting Scoot at number 3 could be historically significant, but I also like what the Blazers did in getting Chris Murray at 23 and then getting Ryan Rupert in the second round. Murray should be able to contribute pretty early in a role that has been long needed for Portland, and then Rupert is great value in the 40s. Obviously, he still has a lot of questions offensively, but I think with his physical tools and energy on defense, he's the type of player that you want to surround their court guards with. And overall, I really liked what Portland did on the night. I wouldn't necessarily call them a true winner because I would have gone in a different direction at number 2, but I did like Charlotte picking up Nick Smith Jr. in the late first and James Najee and Amari Bailey in the second round. I don't know how much any of them will get to play early on, but the talent boost is much needed and they all have the potential to be contributors in the league. Nick Smith could be an excellent pick if things swing in his direction. Now getting to some steals, Leonard Miller fell to the early second round to the Timberwolves, and I think this is a very good spot for his talent. The 6'10 guy who is extremely productive in the G League, has some upside defensively and can do certain things with the ball we just don't see often from pro teenagers at that size, so I love the value here at 33. CD Sissoko fell to the Spurs at 44, and that might have been the best place for him to land in terms of maximizing his potential. I just think his combination of tools as a 6'7 wing with his level of passing feel, defensive ability, and decent shooting trajectory as a teenager should have been valued more. And I wouldn't be surprised if everyone asks themselves how they let the Spurs get away with this in the next couple years. Maxwell Lewis falling to 40 was one of the biggest steals of the night to me too. Teams were concerned about his defense and just playing in an unsuccessful Pepperdine program the last several years, but you watch him and can immediately see the type of potential that he has. And the Lakers' scouting track record makes me even more confident in him being that type of guy in the future. Now, I'm not surprised that G.G. Jackson fell to 45. I thought he was a late first round talent in a vacuum, but at the same time, when you're in position to draft, especially for more of these competitive teams, his appeal is significantly lower than the raw talent would suggest. But Memphis could be a very good spot for him, and I like the value here. Of course, they're a competitive team with a good number of guys to mentor him. I know the Ja situation, I'm throwing that out. But structurally, this is a good organization. He'll have plenty of time to develop in the G League and maybe get a couple opportunities in the NBA playing a more structured game. And I think the chances he returns first round value is still very much there at his age. Trace Jackson Davis fell all the way to the Warriors at 57, which on the surface is pretty crazy, but it's been reported that he didn't want a two-way deal in the 30s and actually lucked out and got a guaranteed spot with the Warriors at 57. So that had as much to do with his fall as anything else, but in the process, the Warriors traded Patrick Baldwin Jr., their 2022 first round pick, who I still think is going to be a contributor in the league, so I didn't love that, but TJD being able to make plays for others in that Warriors offense, finish at the rim potentially off Chris Paul and defend it makes it a very good landing spot for him. Now a few more other thoughts before we get out of here. Jaime Jaquez went 18th to the Heat, which as much as I've been skeptical about valuing him over a number of other options there, the Heat probably end up turning him into an excellent player, and maybe they give him the freedom to play his same game a little more in the NBA, which makes some of those concerns I have a bit less important. And the personal and relationship part of the draft that we don't see could absolutely swing a player 10 to 15 spots, just knowing their makeup and work ethic, and I'm sure that had something to do with his rise too. I like the Kobe Buffkin pick to Atlanta at 15. They've done an excellent job of drafting over the last several years, and I think that's going to continue. And he could be the backup guard they've been searching for as this team is currently constructed. Jordan Walsh to Boston is an excellent fit. I love his game as a tremendous wing defender who just needs a consistent shot to make a contribution. And whether it's this year or in the future, I think he makes a difference for them. Also, from the Celtics perspective, getting your guy and a ton of future seconds to use in future deals, and also having a second round contract over the pick 25. Those are some subtle good moves, as funny as it was to watch them trade back over and over again in real time. And I'm a fan of Walsh's game. And to finish it up here, I thought what Denver did was interesting. I love the Julian Strawther pick. He was one of the more underrated players in a lot of mocks leading up to the draft, and he fits perfectly around Jokic as a 6'7 shooter. And then they picked Jalen Pickett, who I thought was draftable, had an amazing season for Penn State, but there were some other options I liked a lot more. Just given he's almost 24, he is a better pick and roll ball handler than he's given credit, but there's a lot of ISO heavy post up stuff still in there that I'm not sure will translate. And then Hunter Tyson, who I think is fine as a shooter on the wing or at the forward spot. Don't know how soon he'll crack a rotation, which in that case I probably want a young guy I can develop more out of one of these three picks. So I thought those last couple picks were a little questionable, but the champs could certainly prove me wrong, and I'll be very interested to see how those guys look in the next couple weeks. I'll have some more thoughts on those we didn't get to and all the undrafted guys in the Summer League preview in a week or so. More on the Nets taking Tariq Whitehead and Noah Clowney at 21 and 22. I really like those picks for them. Jalen Hood-Schifino in LA. We've got Brandon Podziemski on the Warriors. Omax is in that Dorian Finney-Smith role in Dallas. And then we've got guys like Kobe Brown with the Clippers and Amani Bates landing in Cleveland too. So stay tuned for thoughts on all of that. But yeah, be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you are new, and comment down below who you think won draft night. I appreciate you guys for watching. As always, I'm Keandre. This is HoopIntellect. Until next time, I'm out.